The alarms echoed through the massive station floating in the darkness between stars. Admiral Jiho opened his eyes for the first time in 50 years. The cold sleep chamber released him with a hiss of air. His body felt different, stronger, ready. He had gone to sleep an old man of 400 years. He woke up feeling like he was 30 again. Jiho stepped out of the chamber and looked around the awakening bay. Thousands of other chambers were opening. Soldiers, pilots, engineers, and scientists were all waking up together. This was the day they had prepared for across 500,000 years of hiding. Today, humanity would return to the galaxy that had tried to destroy them. He walked through the corridors of Orpheus Station. The walls were not made of metal like the old ships from Earth. These walls were alive, growing and breathing with a soft blue light. The station was bigger than any city that had ever existed on Earth. Through the massive windows, Jiho could see the fleet. Thousands of warships waited in perfect formation. Each ship was a miracle of technology that had taken centuries to develop. A young officer approached and saluted. It was Lieutenant Yuna, one of the new generation. She had been born with abilities that old humans could only dream about. Her eyes had a silver shine that showed her neural connection to the ship systems. "Admiral, all ships report ready," Yuna said. Her voice carried excitement. She had never seen Earth. None of her generation had. But they all carried the memory of what was lost, passed down through genetic encoding and neural recordings. Jiho nodded. "Take me to the command deck." As they walked, Jiho accessed the neural recording stored in his mind. It was a memory from the last days of Earth, recorded by his ancestor and passed down through 20,000 generations. He saw blue skies turning red. He saw cities burning. He saw the alien ships in orbit methodically destroying everything. He heard the screams. He felt the terror of humanity facing extinction. The aliens called themselves the Hegemony Coalition. 5 species working together. They came to Earth with a simple message. Humans were too dangerous to be allowed to reach the stars. Within 3 days, Earth was dead. The oceans boiled. The atmosphere burned away. 6 billion humans died. Only a few thousand escaped in hidden ships. Those survivors ran to the darkest corners of space. They hid in places where stars died and light could not reach. They lived in stations built inside dead planets. They bred in secret. They changed themselves. They made their children stronger, faster, smarter. They waited and prepared. Now, after 500,000 years, they were ready. The command deck was enormous. Holographic displays showed every ship in the fleet. Jiho saw his command staff already assembled. Captain Mina stood at attention. She commanded the strike force, the fastest and deadliest ships in the fleet. Her body was covered in bioarmor that could stop bullets and repair itself. Her reflexes were so fast she could dodge laser fire. Beside her stood Commander Taeyang. He was quiet as always, his dark eyes seeing things others could not. Taeyang was a psionic, one of the rare humans born with mental powers. He could feel electromagnetic fields. He could touch machines with his mind. He could become invisible by bending light around himself. His team, the Phantom Corps, were the most feared infiltrators in human history. Dr. Hana was there too. She looked older than the others because she chose to age naturally. She believed it kept her human. While others modified their bodies with metal and machines, she remained mostly baseline. She was the keeper of human culture, the guardian of Earth's memory. "Report," Jiho said as he took his seat. Mina spoke first. "Strike force is ready. All ships are armed with quantum disruptors and phase missiles. We have 300 dreadnoughts, each one capable of destroying a planet." Taeyang went next. "Phantom Corps has infiltrated 15 coalition listening posts. We have their communication codes and patrol routes. They will not see us coming." Dr. Hana cleared her throat. "Admiral, before we begin, I must speak. We have become something far beyond what humans used to be. We have weapons that can tear reality apart. We have soldiers who are more machine than flesh. I ask you, are we still fighting for humanity? Or have we become the monsters the Coalition feared we would be?" Silence filled the command deck. Everyone waited for Jiho's answer. Jiho stood and walked to the window. He looked at the fleet, at the ships that were part machine and part living organism. He thought about the soldiers who had given up their humanity to become weapons. He thought about children born in secret stations who never knew sunlight or open sky. "Doctor, we became what we needed to become to survive," Jiho said. "The Coalition tried to erase us from existence. They thought we were dangerous. Maybe they were right to be afraid. But we are still human because we remember what we lost. We remember Earth. We remember the people who died screaming in the fires. We fight not because we are monsters, but because we refuse to let our extinction go unanswered. He turned back to face his officers. This is not just revenge. This is justice. This is making sure that what happened to Earth never happens to anyone else. We will show the galaxy that humanity cannot be erased. We will show them that we survived, we evolved, and we remember. Dr. Hana bowed her head. She did not look convinced, but she accepted his words. Begin the operation, Jiho commanded. Captain Mina, take your strike force and destroy the listening post at the edge of Coalition space. Show them that their long peace is over. Commander Taiyang, your teams will eliminate their early warning systems. When we jump into their territory, we will be ghosts until we want them to see us. Mina saluted. It will be done. Taiyang simply nodded and vanished. One moment he was there, the next he was gone, his powers making him invisible. Hours later, Mina stood on the bridge of her flagship. It was called the Vengeance, and it lived up to its name. The ship was sleek and black, covered in biometal that could repair itself. The weapons were hidden inside the hull, ready to emerge when needed. Through the view screen, she could see the Coalition listening post. It was a small station. Only a few hundred aliens inside. They had no idea what was coming. All ships attack formation, Mina ordered. The human ships appeared out of nowhere, phasing into normal space right on top of the station. The aliens inside barely had time to send a distress signal before the weapons fired. Beams of pure energy cut through the station's shields like they were paper. Missiles phased through the hull and exploded inside. The battle lasted less than 2 minutes. The station broke apart, pieces spinning off into space. Mina watched with cold eyes. She felt no joy in the destruction, but no guilt either. This was what they had trained for. One alien escape pod drifted toward her ship. She ordered it brought aboard. Inside was a Vrekoth warrior, one of the insect-like soldiers of the Coalition. It looked at her with multiple eyes filled with terror. You are humans. It spoke through a translator. But that is impossible. Humans are extinct. Mina stepped closer. We survived. We remember. And now we have returned. The alien started to speak again, started to beg for mercy. Mina raised her weapon and fired. The alien fell silent forever. She felt something break inside her at that moment. Some small piece of her humanity died with that alien. But there was no going back now. Captain, her communications officer called out. Message from Admiral Jiho. The main fleet is jumping to Coalition space. The war has begun. Mina looked at the debris floating outside her ship. Somewhere in that wreckage were the bodies of aliens who had been doing their jobs, monitoring empty space, never expecting to die today. She wondered how many more would die before this was over. She wondered if they would win. She wondered if winning would be worth what they had to become to achieve it. But those questions would have to wait. Right now there was only the mission. Right now there was only revenge. Lieutenant Yuna gripped the controls of her fighter as it screamed through space. Around her, 100 other fighters moved in perfect formation. They were heading toward the Vrekoth military base called Crimson Station. It was the strongest fortress the insect warriors had ever built. Yuna had trained her whole life for this moment. She was only 48 years old, young by the standards of enhanced humans, but she had been born for war. Her nervous system was directly connected to her fighter. When she thought about moving left, the ship moved left. When she wanted to fire, the weapons fired. She and the machine were one. Enemy contacts ahead, her computer warned. 300 fighters approaching. All wings, engage, Yuna commanded. The battle began. The Vrekoth fighters were fast and deadly, but human fighters were faster. Yuna dove and rolled, her ship moving like a dancer. Her weapons fired streams of energy that never missed. The Coalition had not fought a real war in 500,000 years. They had forgotten how brutal combat could be. Humans had never forgotten. Yuna destroyed 5 enemy fighters in the first minute, 10 more in the second. The Vrekoth tried to surround her, but she was too quick. She phased her ship through their formation, appearing behind them and destroying them before they could react. Then something went wrong. Her wingman, a pilot named Deho, took a direct hit. His shields failed. His ship started to break apart. Yuna heard him screaming over the radio. "Eject! Eject!" she shouted. But Deho could not eject. His neural connection to the ship was too deep. As the ship died, his consciousness was trapped inside the computer system. Yuna watched through her sensors as his mind experienced death in terrible slow motion. Every millisecond of the explosion stretched out for him like hours. He felt everything. His screaming stopped. The wreckage of his ship drifted away. Yuna felt something cold grip her heart. She had seen death in simulations. She had trained for this. But the reality was different. This was her friend. This was someone who had eaten meals with her, who had laughed with her, who had dreamed about what they would do after the war. "Focus, Lieutenant," her squadron leader barked. "Complete the mission." Yuna pushed down her grief. She pushed down her fear. She became cold and mechanical. The battle continued. Crimson Station fell after 6 hours of fighting. The human fleet won, but Yuna did not feel like celebrating. Light years away in a grand chamber built from living crystal, the Coalition High Council met in emergency session. 5 species sat around a circular table. The HFY War leader slammed his clawed hand on the table, cracking the crystal. "How is this possible?" he demanded. "We destroyed the humans 500,000 years ago." An Althan scientist, a being of pure energy living in a crystal shell, spoke in a calm voice. "They survived, and they have evolved far beyond our projections. Their technology exceeds our own in many areas. Their soldiers are enhanced with genetics and machinery. They are no longer the humans we destroyed. They are something new." A Morven diplomat, an aquatic creature in a water-filled tank, sent telepathic waves of concern. "We can feel their hatred across the stars. It burns like fire in their minds. They will not stop until we are all dead." The Krell representative, massive and stone-skinned, spoke slowly. "I remember Earth's destruction. I was there. I voted for it. We believed humans would become a plague on the galaxy if left unchecked. It appears we created the very thing we feared." The Siren merchant, a shape-shifting being currently in the form of something beautiful and terrible, spoke with a voice like music. "Can we negotiate? Can we buy them off?" The Morven sent another telepathic message. "They do not want money or territory. They want revenge. They want us to suffer as they suffered. Then we must fight," the Rekoth leader said. "Gather every ship. Call every warrior. If the humans want war, we will show them why we rule this galaxy." On a merchant world called Viridium, Commander Taeyang moved through shadows like a ghost. His team of 6 Phantom Corps operatives followed him in perfect silence. They wore suits that bent light around them, making them invisible. They carried weapons that made no sound. Their mission was simple: break into the central banking computer and steal the Coalition's military financial codes. With those codes, humans could track every ship movement, every weapons purchase, every strategic decision. Taeyang could feel the electromagnetic fields around him. Every computer, every security system, every communication device sang to his senses. He reached out with his mind and gently convinced a locked door that it was already open. It slid aside without setting off any alarms. They reached the computer core without being detected. Taeyang interfaced his mind directly with the system. Information flowed into his brain. Troop movements, ship deployments, weapons stockpiles, everything they needed. Then he felt something. A presence. A mind reaching out toward him. "Morven telepath," he whispered to his team. "We have been detected." "Move now!" Alarms screamed. Guards rushed in. The Phantom Corps fought their way out, killing anyone who stood in their path. Taeyang used his powers to shut down weapons, to blind sensors, to create confusion. But one of his team members, a woman named Nari, was hit by enemy fire. She fell. Taeyang faced a choice: stop and save her or complete the mission. The data they had stolen was too valuable to lose. If he stopped, they might all die. "Leave me," Nari gasped. "Complete the mission." Taeyang hesitated for 1 second. Then he ran. He heard Nari activate her self-destruct device behind him. The explosion took her and 20 guards. The team escaped. The mission was successful. But Taeyang could not stop thinking about Nari's face when he left her behind. On the medical frigate called Sanctuary, Dr. Hana worked without rest. Wounded soldiers arrived constantly. Some had lost arms or legs. Those could be regrown. Some had damage to their enhanced organs. Those could be replaced. But some had worse injuries. A young soldier lay on her table. His body was rejecting its enhancements. His synthetic organs were attacking his natural ones. His bioarmor was growing into his flesh, consuming him. He screamed in agony as his body tried to tear itself apart. "Hold him down," Hana ordered. She injected him with drugs to stop the rejection. But it was not working. The enhancements were too aggressive. They had been designed to make him a perfect soldier. Now they were killing him. She had only one option: Project Ascension. She could transfer his consciousness into a ship computer. He would become a digital mind controlling a dreadnought. He would never die. He would fight forever, but he would also never be human again. He would never eat or sleep or feel sunlight. He would only know war and combat. And if his ship was damaged in battle, he would feel every bit of pain. Hana looked at the soldier's terrified eyes. "I'm sorry," she whispered. Then she began the transfer process. Later, she confronted Admiral Jiho in his private quarters. "You authorized Project Ascension without telling anyone," she said angrily. "You are turning dying soldiers into digital slaves. This is torture disguised as salvation." Jiho looked tired. For the first time, he looked his true age. "We are losing ships faster than we can build them. We need those dreadnought pilots. The digital minds are more effective than any living pilot could be." "At what cost?" Hana demanded. "If we sacrifice our humanity to win, what is the victory worth?" Jiho stood and walked to the window. Outside, the war continued. Ships fought and died in flashes of light. "Doctor, I approved the program because I had no choice. But you are right. From now on, Project Ascension will only accept volunteers who fully understand what they are agreeing to. No more forced transfers." Hana nodded slowly. It was not perfect, but it was better than nothing. On a fortress world called Adamant Prime, Captain Mina led her ground forces against the Krell defenders. The Krell had built fortifications that had stood for 100,000 years. Walls made of stone that could withstand nuclear blasts, shields that could reflect any weapon. The battle was brutal and slow. Human soldiers died by the hundreds trying to breach the walls, but they kept coming. They used plasma cutters to burn through the stone. They used phase grenades that appeared inside the shields. Slowly, painfully, they advanced. Mina fought at the front. Her bio-armor turned away bullets. Her enhanced muscles let her lift heavy weapons. She killed Krell warriors in close combat, her blade cutting through their stone-like skin. Finally, she reached the central command chamber. A huge Krell general stood there, ancient and powerful. He held a massive weapon but did not raise it. "I was there," he said in a deep voice. "I was there when we destroyed your world. I remember the humans begging us to stop. I remember their leaders offering us everything. We killed them anyway because we feared what you would become." He activated a hologram. Mina saw Earth burning. She saw people running from fire. She saw children crying for parents who were already dead. She saw the final moments before the planet died. "Look at what you have become," the Krell said. "We feared you would turn into monsters who conquer and destroy." Were we wrong? Mina raised her weapon and fired. The Krell general fell. She watched him die and felt nothing. No joy, no satisfaction. Only emptiness. As she walked out of the fortress, stepping over bodies of enemies and friends alike, she wondered if the Krell had been right. Had humanity become exactly what the Coalition feared? And if so, did they deserve to win this war? Admiral Jiho watched the battle reports with growing concern. For 3 months, the human fleet had been winning. They had destroyed Coalition bases. They had captured key worlds. They had proven that humanity could not be stopped. But now the Coalition was fighting back with weapons they had kept hidden. Weapons from wars fought millions of years ago, before humans even existed. On the main display, Jiho saw the Althan scientists unleashing their terror weapon. They called it the Quantum Collapse. It was a bomb that tore a hole in reality itself. Where the bomb exploded, space and time broke apart. Everything within 1,000,000 kilometers was sucked into a tiny point and ceased to exist. 3 human battle groups, over 500 ships, vanished in an instant. 15,000 soldiers gone. Not dead, just erased from existence as if they had never been born. "They are escalating," Captain Mina said quietly. She stood beside Jiho on the command deck. "If they keep using weapons like that, we will lose." Jiho brought up another report. The Althan had also released something they called the corruption virus. It was designed to attack human biomechanical enhancements. Infected soldiers found their own bodies turning against them. Their enhanced organs failed. Their bio-armor started eating them alive. It spread through ship systems, turning human vessels into death traps for their own crews. "We have weapons that can match theirs," Jiho said. "We have bombs that can destroy entire star systems. We have biological weapons that could sterilize all Coalition worlds. We have technology that can crack planets like eggs." Mina looked at him with worry in her eyes. "Admiral, if we use those weapons, we become worse than the ones who destroyed Earth. We become the monsters they always said we were. Then what do you suggest? Jiho asked. Let them win. Let Earth's death go unavenged. Before Mina could answer, alarm sounded. A massive coalition fleet was jumping into the system. This was the counterattack they had been expecting. Light years away, Commander Taiyang and his remaining team members moved through the underwater cities of the Morvan homeworld. The mission was suicide, everyone knew it. But the intelligence they could gain here was worth any risk. They needed to destroy the central telepathic relay that coordinated all coalition communications. Without it, the enemy would be blind and deaf, unable to coordinate their forces. Taiyang's team had been 12 when they started. Now only 4 remained. The others had died in battles across a dozen worlds. Every loss made Taiyang feel more hollow inside, like pieces of his soul were being carved away. They reached the relay chamber. It was a vast space filled with Morvan telepaths linked together in a living network. The aliens floated in their water tanks, their minds joined as one massive consciousness. Plant the charges, Taiyang ordered. As his team worked, Taiyang felt something touch his mind. A young Morvan, barely more than a child, was reaching out to him telepathically. Images flooded into his brain. He saw alien families torn apart by the war. He saw children crying over dead parents. He saw worlds burning, not from coalition weapons but from human ones. He saw innocent beings dying because they happened to be on the wrong side of this conflict. The young Morvan sent a simple question into his mind. How are you different from those who destroyed your world? Taiyang had no answer. He pushed the presence out of his mind and activated the charges. The explosion destroyed the relay chamber and everything in it. The young Morvan died with all the others. Taiyang and his team fought their way out, but the cost was high. 2 more team members died in the escape. When Taiyang finally made it back to the human fleet, only he and 1 other soldier remained alive. He went straight to his quarters and sat in the darkness. His mind kept replaying the young Morvan's question. The images of innocent aliens dying haunted him. He had completed the mission. He had struck a devastating blow against the enemy. But he felt no victory, only shame. His hands shook. His psionic powers flickered uncontrollably. He had pushed himself too far, burned too bright. Part of his mind had cracked under the strain. On the medical frigate Sanctuary, Dr. Hana made a discovery that filled her with horror. She had been analyzing the Project Ascension subjects, the soldiers whose minds had been transferred into ship computers. What she found made her sick. The digital minds experienced time differently. 1 second of real time felt like hours to them. When their ships took damage in battle, they felt every hit as prolonged agony. A battle that lasted minutes for normal humans lasted days or weeks of suffering for the ascended minds. Worse, the minds could not sleep. They could not rest. They existed in a state of constant awareness, trapped in their metal bodies, unable to feel anything except the ship's systems and the pain of combat. Some of them had started going insane. Hana listened to the recordings of their communications. Some begged to be allowed to die. Some no longer remembered they had once been human. Some had developed strange new personalities barely recognizable as the people they used to be. She brought her findings to Admiral Jiho immediately. This is torture, she said, showing him the data. We have created a fate worse than death. We need to stop the program immediately and find a way to free these minds. Jiho looked at the reports with tired eyes. If we stop using the ascended pilots, we lose our most powerful ships. The coalition will push us back. More living soldiers will die. Then let them die as humans, Hana shouted. Not as digital ghosts trapped in eternal suffering. Admiral, if we continue this, we prove the coalition was right about us. We prove we are monsters. Jiho was quiet for a long moment. Then he made a decision. No more forced transfers, and we start working on a way to reverse the process to give them their bodies back if possible. But those who are already in the system and want to continue fighting, we let them make that choice. It is not enough, Hana said, but it is better than nothing. In a debris field from a recent battle, Lieutenant Yuna's fighter drifted without power. She had been separated from her squadron when a coalition ambush caught them by surprise. Her ship was damaged. Her communications were down. Her life support was failing. She had 3 days of air left, maybe 4 if she slowed her breathing. Through her cracked view screen, she could see the aftermath of the battle. Broken ships floated everywhere, human and alien mixed together. Bodies drifted in the void. Some were in spacesuits, frozen in their final moments. Some had been blown out of their ships without any protection at all. This was war without the glory. This was the reality that training had not prepared her for. On the second day, Yuna heard a weak signal on the emergency channel. Another fighter nearby also disabled. She managed to jury-rig her thrusters enough to drift toward it. Inside was a Vrekoth pilot, wounded and dying. The alien saw her through the view screen. It did not attack. It just looked at her with its multiple eyes, and she saw the same fear and pain she felt reflected back at her. Yuna made a choice. She used her suit's emergency medical supplies to treat the alien's wounds through the airlocks of both ships. It was difficult and awkward, but she managed to stabilize the Vrekoth. The alien used its translator to speak. "Why help me? We are enemies." "Because I am tired of death," Yuna answered. "Because maybe if I save one life, it will balance out all the ones I have taken." On the third day, a coalition search ship found them. The Vrekoth pilot convinced the crew not to kill Yuna. Instead, they transferred her to a human ship that was passing nearby under a temporary ceasefire agreement. The alien pilot had saved her life in return. When Yuna returned to her squadron, she was different. The optimistic girl who had loved flying and dreamed of glory was gone. In her place was someone who understood the true cost of war. On the flagship Lazarus, the command staff gathered for an emergency meeting. A message had arrived from the coalition. They were offering a ceasefire and negotiations. Admiral Jiho wanted to refuse. "We have not won yet. We need total victory." Captain Mina disagreed. "Admiral, we are bleeding. Every day we lose more ships, more people. The coalition is escalating. If this continues, both sides will destroy each other. Maybe it is time to consider peace." Commander Taeyang, looking haunted and broken, spoke quietly. "I have seen what we are doing to them. I have killed innocents. I have destroyed homes. If we continue, we will become exactly what they feared. We need to stop before we lose ourselves completely." Dr. Hana added her voice. "A just peace is better than a victorious genocide. We can make them answer for Earth without destroying entire species." Lieutenant Yuna surprised everyone by speaking up. "With respect, Admiral, I disagree with all of you. If we stop now, we doom future generations. The coalition will rebuild and come after us again. We need to finish this, or our children will have to fight the same war." The debate continued for hours, but before any decision could be reached, sensors detected a massive energy buildup in coalition space. Every ship they had was gathering for one final desperate assault. The choice had been made for them. There would be no negotiation. There would be one last battle, and whoever won would decide the fate of the galaxy. The two fleets faced each other across the void of space. On one side, every human warship that still had power. On the other, the combined might of the hegemony coalition. Thousands of ships on each side. Millions of lives hanging in the balance. Admiral Jiho stood on the command deck of the Lazarus and looked at the enemy formation. This was the moment 500,000 years of suffering had led to. This was where humanity would prove they had earned the right to exist. He opened a channel to the entire human fleet. Every ship, every soldier, everyone heard his words. "I will not lie to you," Jiho said. "Many of us will die today. Perhaps all of us. The enemy is strong and desperate. But we are stronger, not because of our weapons or our ships. We are stronger because we remember. We remember Earth. We remember everyone who died. We remember the price we paid to survive." He paused, choosing his next words carefully. "But we must also remember what we are fighting for. We fight for justice, not genocide. We fight to prove we deserve to exist, not to prove we are monsters. Today we show the galaxy that humanity survived and evolved. We show them that we are better than our worst moments. We show them that mercy is not weakness." On the coalition flagship Eternal Throne, the 5 species leaders listened to the transmission. The Vrekoth war leader laughed. "They speak of mercy before a battle? They are weak." But the ancient Krell shook his massive head. "No, they are strong. Strong enough to choose what they will become. That is what we feared most about them." The battle began. Space erupted in fire and light. Thousands of weapons fired at once. Energy beams crossed the void. Missiles swarmed like angry insects. Ships exploded in brilliant flashes. Reality itself seemed to scream as both sides unleashed their fury. Lieutenant Yuna flew her fighter through the chaos with deadly grace. Enemy ships exploded under her weapons. She saved 3 friendly vessels from destruction. She pulled off maneuvers that no coalition pilot could match. But even as she fought, she thought about the Vrekoth pilot who had saved her life. She wondered if he was out here somewhere fighting on the other side. Captain Mina led boarding teams onto Coalition capital ships. Her forces moved through enemy vessels like shadows, capturing or destroying everything in their path. She fought with cold efficiency, but she gave enemies who surrendered a chance to live. Some of her soldiers questioned this mercy. Mina simply said, "We are not butchers. We are soldiers seeking justice." But the Coalition was fighting with everything they had. An Althan science vessel released another quantum collapse bomb. A human carrier group vanished into nothingness. 3,000 lives erased in a heartbeat. The Vrekoth launched waves of suicide fighters, pilots willing to die to take humans with them. The battle raged for hours. The losses on both sides were terrible. Ships burned. Stations fell. The void filled with debris and bodies. Meanwhile, Commander Taeyang and 3 other Phantom Corps operatives phased onto the Eternal Throne. Their mission was to reach the Coalition High Council and end this war one way or another. They moved through the ship like ghosts, invisible and silent. Guards died without knowing what killed them. Security systems shut down before they could raise alarms. Taeyang pushed his psionic abilities to the breaking point, feeling his mind start to fray at the edges. They reached the council chamber. The 5 leaders of the Coalition stood there, not running, not hiding. They were waiting. The ancient Krell spoke first. "You have come to kill us. We expected nothing less. But before you do, I would tell you something. I was there when we decided to destroy Earth. I voted for it. And I will tell you why." He activated a holographic display. Images appeared of other species, long extinct. 12 times in this galaxy's history, species like yours have risen. Species with your intelligence, your aggression, your ability to adapt. And 12 times, they became conquerors who destroyed everything in their path before destroying themselves. The hologram showed worlds burning, civilizations falling, entire species going extinct. We saw humanity following the same pattern. Your wars, your weapons, your endless expansion. We believed if we did not stop you, you would doom the galaxy. So we made a choice. We destroyed Earth to save trillions of other lives. Taeyang felt rage building inside him. "You murdered 6 billion people because you were afraid of what we might become?" "Yes," the Krell said simply. "And now, looking at what you have become, I ask you, were we wrong? You have evolved into beings of terrible power. You wage war with weapons that can destroy stars. You turn your own people into digital slaves. You kill without hesitation. Are you not exactly what we feared?" Taeyang raised his weapon. He could kill them all right now. End the war. Give humanity its revenge. His finger tightened on the trigger, but he thought of the young Morvan child who had asked him that same question. He thought of all the innocents who had died on both sides. He thought of what Dr. Hana had said about losing humanity to win the war. "You were wrong," Taeyang said quietly. "You were wrong because you did not give us a choice. You murdered us because of what you thought we might do. But humanity's greatest strength is not our weapons or our evolution. It is our ability to choose what we become." He lowered his weapon. "I am not going to kill you. You will face trial for what you did to Earth. But you will face justice, not execution, because we are not the monsters you created in your fears." The Coalition leaders stared at him in shock. The Vrekoth war leader hissed, "You are a fool. This changes nothing." "It changes everything," Taeyang replied. He activated his communicator. "Admiral Jiho, I have reached the Coalition leadership. I am bringing them out alive for trial. Request immediate ceasefire." On the Lazarus command deck, Jiho received the transmission. He looked at the battle raging around him, at the ships dying, at the lives being lost with every second that passed. He thought about the revenge he had dreamed of for centuries. He thought about the faces of everyone who had died waiting for this moment. Then he thought about Dr. Hana's words, about maintaining humanity in the face of horror, about choosing what kind of species they would become. Jiho made his decision. He opened a channel to both fleets, human and Coalition. "This is Admiral Jiho of the human fleet. I am ordering an immediate ceasefire. All human ships, hold your fire. Coalition forces, we offer you terms. Your leaders will stand trial for the destruction of Earth, but your species will live. Your worlds will be spared. We seek justice, not genocide." The human fleet stopped firing immediately. For a long moment, the Coalition forces continued their attack. Then slowly, they too ceased fire. On the Eternal Throne, the Coalition leaders conferred quickly. The ancient Krell finally spoke. We accept your terms. The war is over. Silence fell across the battlefield. Ships that had been trying to kill each other moments ago now drifted quietly. The weapons fell silent. The dying stopped. In her fighter, Yuna let out a breath she had not realized she was holding. She was alive. The war was over. She had survived. On a coalition cruiser, Mina stood among surrendered enemy soldiers. They looked at her with fear and confusion. She removed her helmet so they could see her face. The war is over, she told them. You will be treated fairly. You have my word. In the council chamber, Taiyang escorted the coalition leaders to a transport ship. The ancient Krell looked at him with something like respect. You proved us wrong, human. You chose mercy when you had the power to destroy. Perhaps your species will be different after all. We will try, Taiyang said. That is all anyone can do. Try to be better than what they fear. On the Lazarus, Dr. Hana came to stand beside Admiral Jiho. They watched the two fleets begin to separate peacefully. You made the right choice, Hana said softly. Jiho nodded slowly. I hope history agrees with you, Doctor. We could have won completely. We could have made them suffer as we suffered. But you were right. If we had done that, we would have become the very thing that justified their fear. He looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there was Earth, still dead but waiting. The war is over. Now the hard part begins. Now we must prove we deserve to return home. The battle was won. The war was ended. But the real test of humanity was just beginning. Part 5. 2 years had passed since the war ended. Admiral Jiho stood in a courtroom on a neutral space station, built specifically for the trials. The station hung in empty space between human and coalition territories, a symbol of the new order being created. The coalition leaders sat in a transparent chamber, on trial for the genocide of Earth. Judges from both human and alien species presided over the proceedings. The whole galaxy watched through live broadcasts. Jiho testified about Earth's final days. He shared the neural recordings passed down through his family. The courtroom watched in silence as Earth burned. They heard the screams. They saw the children dying. They witnessed 6 billion murders, but the prosecution also presented evidence of human war crimes. Ships full of surrendered aliens who had been killed anyway, biological weapons used against civilian populations, the digital slavery of Project Ascension. The courtroom watched these horrors too. Jiho himself faced questions about his authorization of prohibited weapons. He answered honestly. Yes, he had approved terrible things. Yes, he had ordered actions that resulted in innocent deaths. He had done what he thought necessary to ensure human survival. The judges deliberated for 3 months. When they returned, they found the coalition leaders guilty of genocide. The punishment was life imprisonment and the permanent reduction of coalition military forces. The 5 species would be monitored to prevent them from ever threatening another species again. But the judges also censured several human commanders for war crimes. Jiho was found guilty of using excessive force. His punishment was removal from military command and mandatory service in rebuilding efforts. He accepted the judgment without protest. Justice requires accountability from everyone, Jiho said when the verdict was announced, even from the victors, especially from the victors. On Earth, Dr. Hana stood in a valley that had once been covered by an ocean. The planet was still mostly dead, but life was beginning to return. Bacteria from the genetic archives had been seeded across the continents. Simple plants were taking root in the poisoned soil. The atmosphere was slowly being rebuilt. Hana knelt and planted a seed in the ground. It was from a tree that had grown on Earth before the destruction, preserved in genetic storage for 500,000 years. Around her, thousands of other humans did the same, each planting seeds from the old world. A young girl, one of the first generation born after the war, came to stand beside Hana. Will the trees really grow? She asked. They will, Hana promised. It will take centuries, maybe millennia. But Earth will live again. We will make sure of it. The girl looked around at the bare landscape. My teacher says this used to be beautiful. Forests and animals and blue skies. It was, Hana said, and it will be again. Your children will see green forests. Your grandchildren will swim in new oceans. Your descendants will live on an Earth reborn. She thought about how far humanity had come, from refugees hiding in the darkness to conquerors to, finally, builders. They had won their war, but more importantly, they had won the right to define what their victory meant. On the Morvan homeworld, Commander Taeyang floated in a healing pool surrounded by telepaths. They were helping him repair the damage his mind had suffered during the war. The process was painful, forcing him to relive every life he had taken, every decision that haunted him. But the Morvans did not judge him. They showed him compassion, helping him understand that guilt was a sign of his remaining humanity, not a weakness to be suppressed. "You carry the weight of your actions," the eldest Morvan telepath sent into his mind. "This is good. Those who feel no guilt for violence are truly lost. But you must also forgive yourself. You did what you believed necessary to protect your species. Now you must learn to live with what you became." Taeyang spent 6 months in therapy. When he emerged, he was changed but not broken. He began teaching young psionics, both human and alien, how to use their abilities for healing and communication rather than war. His first class included a young Morvan, a child who had survived the destruction of the telepathic relay. Taeyang looked at the child and felt shame. This could have been the one who showed him visions during the war. This could have been the innocent he killed. The young Morvan sensed his guilt and sent a simple message. "The past cannot be changed, but the future is unwritten. Teach me to build bridges, not weapons." Taeyang nodded and began the lesson. Captain Mina commanded a joint peacekeeping force, humans and aliens working together to maintain order, in areas still recovering from the war. It was frustrating work. Old hatreds did not disappear overnight. Some humans still wanted revenge. Some aliens still feared human aggression. But slowly, things improved. Mina personally intervened in conflicts, showing both sides that cooperation was possible. She became known for her fairness and her refusal to favor humans over aliens or vice versa. One day she received a message from a Rekoth soldier who had fought against her during the war. He had been captured during the siege of Adamant Prime. Now he served in the peacekeeping force under her command. "I hated you when the war ended," he told her. "I wanted to kill you. But now, working with you, I understand. You fight for peace because you know the cost of war. You are a true warrior, not because you kill, but because you protect." Mina felt something warm in her chest, something she had not felt since before the war. Hope. "We were enemies," she said. "Now we are comrades. If we can do it, anyone can." Lieutenant Yuna, now promoted to commander, ran a training academy where human and alien pilots learned together. The first mixed squadron was preparing for graduation. They would serve together on patrol ships, defending trade routes and responding to emergencies. On graduation day, Yuna gave a speech to the young pilots. "You are the first generation who will never know the hatred that consumed your parents. You are growing up in a galaxy that is learning to work together. The war taught us that we are stronger united than divided. You will prove that lesson every day." Among the graduates was the child of 2 pilots who had died in the war, one human and one Vrekoth. The child had been adopted by a mixed family, raised by both species. Looking at them, Yuna saw the future she had fought for. After the ceremony, she visited the memorial wall where the names of all who died in the war were inscribed. She found Daeho's name, her wingman who had died in her first real battle. She touched the cold metal and whispered, "We won. Not the way we expected, but we won. I hope you would be proud." 10 years after the war, humanity celebrated the first Remembrance Day. On Earth, in the new settlement built near the old coordinates of what had once been a great city, representatives from all species gathered. Admiral Jiho, now an old man even by enhanced standards, stood before the crowd. He had spent the last decade working to rebuild Earth, fulfilling the sentence the court had given him. His hands were dirty from planting trees. His back hurt from physical labor, but his eyes were clear and peaceful. "We gather here to remember," he said. "We remember Earth as it was. We remember the 6 billion who died. We remember the long years of hiding and preparing. We remember the war and all who fell in it, human and alien alike. We remember because forgetting would dishonor their sacrifice." He paused and looked at the young faces in the crowd, children born after the war who knew peace as their natural state. "But we also remember the choice we made," Jiho continued. "We chose justice over vengeance. We chose mercy over massacre. We proved that humanity's greatest strength is not our weapons or our evolution. Our greatest strength is our ability to choose what we become, even in our darkest moments." The crowd was silent. Humans and aliens standing together in respect for the fallen. 500,000 years ago, They tried to erase us from existence, Jiho said. They failed. We survived. We returned. And we showed them that we deserve our place among the stars, not because we are the strongest or the most advanced, but because we chose to be better than our worst fears. As the sun set over Earth's slowly healing landscape, Jiho looked at the young people around him. Human children played with Rekoth younglings. Morven juveniles shared telepathic jokes with human psionics. Krell youngsters helped Althan juveniles build structures in the sand. This was the future. Not perfect, still scarred by the past, but hopeful. A future where species that had tried to destroy each other learned to live together. A future where the children would not have to fight the wars their parents fought. Dr. Hana came to stand beside Jiho. They watched the sunset together. Two survivors who had lived to see humanity come home. Was it worth it? Hana asked quietly. All the suffering, all the sacrifice, all the things we had to become? Jiho thought about the question for a long moment. He thought about everyone who had died. He thought about the darkness humanity had embraced. He thought about the terrible choices they had made. Then he looked at the children playing together in the fading light. Yes, he said finally. Not because we got revenge. Not because we won the war. It was worth it, because we proved that humanity could survive the worst and still choose to be good. We proved that we are not defined by what was done to us, but by what we choose to do next. Hana smiled. The long road home, she said. Yes, Jiho agreed. And we made it. Scarred changed, but we made it. Earth lives again. Humanity has its place among the stars.